Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing MrFrankCastle in a 15+2 game on lichess.org. My opponent opens with e4. Let's play a Caro-Kann. I played this in a bullet game or two in recent videos. I don't know. I'm not so much debating as to whether to add it to my repertoire or not. I just like the structures that can arise. I have some familiarity with them. So after knight takes, I can play knight d7 or bishop f5. I'm going to play knight d7 because I think this is easier to play when you're not too familiar with the theory in this line. You just offer a trade of the knight so you can replace the knight on f6 if white takes and not damage your pawns. So now knight g5, but this move order I believe is inaccurate by white. I do know some theory in this line. So if I play h6, white can't respond with knight e6 because I just take it. If white had played bishop d3 instead of knight f3, then I might be in some trouble. But I think this way, white has to go back to h3, and that doesn't look quite right. So already I'm liking my position. We have 80 spectators in this game already. Okay. Better display my best chess. So if knight h3 is played, what am I going to do? I could continue with g5, threatening to fork the knights. That weakens the kingside to some degree, but my bishop could come out to g7. That seems like the most principled way to try to play against knight h3. Punish it to some degree. He's probably looking at various sacrifices right now. Either takes or, what else? Knight e6, I don't think white gets hardly anything. They can threaten mate after that, bishop d3, threatening bishop g6, but that's a very easy threat to parry. And just king f7. I could even move my queen and make way for the king to come to d8. So I am expecting knight h3. And the more I look at g5, the more I like it. I could probably also just play e6 or maybe knight b6, make way for the light square bishop to come out. But that gives white an opportunity to get the knight back in the game via f4. So if I can take that away, I think I'd prefer that. And he takes. Okay, well, we'll find out what happens here. I gotta take it. So if bishop c4 check, probably just e6. Could play king back to e8. But then queen d3 is looking more annoying. So I think e6 is called for. e6, queen e2, and then knight d5. Looks normal, so I'm going to play this move. And he quickly plays queen e2. So I could defend the e6 pawn by playing knight b6, allowing my bishop to help out, but I don't like allowing knight e5. So I'm leaning towards playing knight d5 right here. Queen e8 also comes to mind. But knight d5 with the idea of bishop d6, rook e8, try to castle by hand. I like that more, so let's do it. It's good that I'm getting some practice in at this time control because I'll be playing in the Pro Chess League coming up for the Minnesota Blizzard. And that's the time control in the Pro Chess League on chess.com, 15+2. All right, so bishop d6, preparing to castle by hand. The only thing I'm sort of wondering is if white can move this bishop away and prepare c4. But bishop d6 looks so natural to me that I don't think I should lose sleep over it. And if the bishop does move away, I can maybe think about b5, contesting the c4 square. All right, so now I get a chance to do this, and hopefully I can tuck my king away on g8. My opponent only has one pawn for the piece. That's important to note. It's not two pawns plus an initiative. It's just one pawn. So bishop b3, indicating that he wants to play c4. He's going to have to use his pawns to try to gain some initiative and push me back. But if he had done that a couple moves ago, I would have been more concerned. Maybe instead of rook e1. But here I don't think I even have to resort to b5. I think just king g8, c4, and then maybe just knight f6. c5, bishop moves. He can take on e6, but I tuck the king away. He does get another pawn that way. What about king g8, c4, knight f4? And after queen e4, my knight is looking a little loose on that square. Maybe not. Queen f6. Queen f6 looks all right. Knight e5. I could play knight f8 to reinforce e6, and then after c4, then play knight here. Knight e5 check, king g8. It's probably not so bad either. Yeah, let's play that way. I'll follow the old chess advice. Knight on f8, there is no mate. Controls useful squares on the king side. And in this case, helps me defend e6 too. One thing that's nice about this move, if white plays c4 and then later tries to put the bishop on c2 and bring the queen to d3 or e4, assuming my king's on g8, then h7 is always guarded by the knight. It might also be the case that my knight comes to f6 and guards h7, so even overprotects that square, which is helpful. I still do have to figure out how to get my light square bishop into the game. This is my one bad minor piece. But for this amount of material, I'm willing to go through some minor inconveniences. Knight e5. Okay, so it looks like I should take this knight because it is irritating on that square, but I think I'm better off not trading for it. Because if I take and then pawn takes, this knight will have to go to a bad square like d7. That position just strikes me as a little more passive than I would like, so I'm going to play king g8. And maybe look to counterattack in the center with c5. Destabilize this knight. And he plays f4, propping it up, but now I have even more of a mind to play this move. And maybe a follow-up could be b6 and get the bishop here without losing the c6 pawn, which would be the case if I played b6 immediately. He plays knight takes c6. Oh, I did it again, guys. I'm sorry. I always do this. So I'm sorry for blocking the time there with my face. All right, let's play c5. I'm glad I didn't get into time pressure or something and this happens. Caught it relatively early. But yeah, sometimes when I change my layout in my recording software, it covers that up. So I'm expecting bishop e3 here. Attacking c5, and then I'll continue with either b6 or queen c7. I like the look of both moves. Even though f4 strengthens the knight on e5, I think that was the wrong approach. I think white has to look for quicker development, and probably they should have played bishop f4 with rook a d1 in mind. This seems too slow. So bishop e3, b6, and then I'm ready to get my bishop to b7. The queen can still come to c7 in this case. I'm not afraid of knight c6. What about bishop a4? Should I ever be afraid of that? Maybe, since rook e7, knight c6 could be the answer. Okay, yeah, maybe I have to take that into account. Yeah, I'm going to play queen c7 first. Maybe I'll just overprotect the c6 square. If it wasn't for bishop a4, I think I would have played b6 there. So now, because I vacated the d8 square, let's say I get to play b6 next move, and bishop a4 is the answer. Maybe I can go rook d8. There's still some question about knight c6 that would still hit the rook. Now on rook d1, I'm tempted to play takes, bishop takes, and then bishop c5, trying to swap those dark square bishops. And I think white has to play king h1 sometime soon. So take, take, bishop c5. Let's say king h1 immediately. Maybe then b6. Or just bishop d7. Bishop d7 looks fine. Or take, take, and then bishop d7. Let's take. Just looks nice to get this swap in. Again, not super concerned about this knight. Even though it's strong, it doesn't have much of an influence anymore because my king is safe. And those sensitive squares around the king are just covered. Okay, queen there. So here... Probably just take, and I wonder if he's going to take with the queen. Probably. So maybe b6 first. b6, let's look at bishop a4. Bishop d7. Take on c5. I can take with the pawn. Bishop takes, knight takes. Yeah, and I'm holding all my material in that case. Seems to check out. I'm going to do it. So strangely, I still might put the bishop on d7, even though I'm playing b6 to go bishop b7. But I want to try to bait white into playing bishop a4 so I can get more pieces off the board, more minor pieces. And g4, wow. Okay, white's charging ahead. White's going all in at this point. No doubt about that. First instinct is just to respond calmly, just bishop b7, let white play g5, which I think they're guaranteed to do. Trade, and look for opportunities down this diagonal very soon. Maybe just knight back here. White's made some progress against my king, but their king looks far too exposed. Yeah, let's encourage white to overextend. And I say white's going all in with this move because once you play g4, your king is irreversibly weakened. That pawn is not going to go back to g2 ever. White has already played f4. Now they're playing h4. There's no shelter for that king. All right, so h4 doesn't change anything, I don't believe. I'd love to play queen c6 here, but this knight is guarding the square. So I'm thinking about knight d7. I'm also thinking about just rook d8, adding another attacker here. Both moves look good. Hard to argue with rook d8. Such a natural move. Knight d7 though also. Looks real tempting. Knight d7, maybe bishop a4. Pinning. I could probably just take on e5 there, but I'm going to keep it simple. I'll play this. Get the remaining rook in play. So now I could be looking to play rook takes d4. That would sacrifice the exchange, but white would have to take with a rook and reply. And then white has rook, queen, and king all on that diagonal. My bishop would be a monster in that case. So it looks like white has to resolve the tension soon, take on c5. And then I can decide whether I want to take with the queen or the pawn. Probably I'll take with the queen, because I am ahead 2 points of material. A queen trade's good for me. So I bet either bishop takes c5 will be played or g5. Plays bishop takes c5. We'll proceed as planned. So I do end up with an isolated pawn here, but that blocks the c pawn permanently. This pawn's only weak if white can attack it. And knight d3 is met by knight takes g4, so I think white is going to be obliged to move this pawn forward. I was expecting them to do this a couple moves ago, like on move 21 instead of h4. But yeah, now white plays it. Now this pawn could be a target, so maybe knight h5, looking to go after f4. Could take first, but I'm thinking white might take with the f-pawn. Not that that's a massive worry, but I'd rather keep that pawn on f4 where it could be weak. So if here, let's say take, I take back. White could maybe move the king, try to get, or actually they can't go there, they'd have to go to h2. Try to get some play down the g file, but nah, that's not enough to do me any harm, is it? Probably just take on f4 or play rook takes d1. Probably rook takes d1. Rook takes d1, rook takes d1. Knight takes f4, rook g1, check. Actually, that's slightly annoying. This white can check on f7 or c2 with the bishop after that. I could go here, take, and then take on f4. But still, white might play king h2 soon. Another decent looking option is just to move this knight away, like to d7. I'm just wondering about that bishop a4 move. I think he's saying he's lost, my friend. Well, I still have to prove it. I'm just taking a second here because the next couple moves will probably come quick. Knight d7 takes. Just don't like that he gets bishop a4 in at the end of all those lines. It's annoying. Okay, I think I am going to play this. I don't think I have to fear this position so much. He has some temporary activity down the g file, but it's going to take a few tempi to arrange, with king h2 being almost a necessary part of that plan. Yeah, and he plays king f2 anyways, which I think is inferior. I think. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I was just thinking because I have access to h3 and check on g1 that would cause trouble for him. But we'll find out. He's telling me about his chess aspirations. Yeah, I actually thought that he might be referring to this game, which I'll tell you guys about afterwards. So on takes, I don't think I can take back because of rook g1, and he's going to check me on f7 or c2 is the problem. So the question is, do I play rook takes d1, try to get one pair of rooks off the board, or I think my plan is just to play g6. Simply g6 and then bring the king up here. Looks awkward, and now I really do want to trade this, but I have to be a little careful how I do that. Bring the knight up. Trade. He goes here. It's always the thing. I can protect it with my king, but bishop c2 will come in. So I think I'm just going to go... Yeah, I'll just do this. Keep the position closed for now, and try to use my king soon. So maybe come up and take this way. Still got to watch this f7 square. It's possible I'm seeing ghosts in a couple of these lines, but I keep seeing ways he can harass me on the g-file, and with his knight and bishop, and the bishop coming back there, as I've talked about. So I'll try to keep the g-file closed. If he plays bishop here, I'll have to take. And then he'll take with his rook, and I'll move my rook away somewhere. Probably to b8, I'm thinking. It's a little awkward. I do like my knight here. And if he uses his king to attack it, I always have checks. For instance, king e3 just loses to knight g2 check, forking the king and the rook. King g3, I can play knight h5, which I think I'm going to do. Yeah, let's check. If the king comes up, he goes there. Okay. So I wonder if he's trying to play knight f7 if I go king h7. I mean, I think it's most likely he just played king g3 because he didn't like my knight there. But he might have in mind this knight f7 plan. And that doesn't do a whole lot for white, though. So king here, knight here. Let's say take on d1. Takes with the rook, probably. He's not threatening much. So let's go ahead. I'm also going to look for an opportunity for my bishop to come here and maybe come to f5. Most likely if he takes back on d1 with the rook. So rook there. That's interesting. So if I take rook f7, I'd actually have to go back here with the king, which is annoying, very annoying. This rook f7 plan. Maybe I underestimated this. Okay, I'm going to try to go here. But the problem is, after here, I can't take because a knight g4 mate. Probably still doing well. It certainly feels that way, but some tactics to negotiate with 1 minute on my clock. I'm going to go to g8. h7 I can just take with the knight, so no worries there. Probably he'll take here. Start trying to gather some pawns. And then I'm thinking check and maybe rook d4. Come up the board with the rook. I really like that bishop on f5, just holding these points. And my king seems safe enough. Could also check and then just trade rooks and play rook d8. That seems good too. Maybe he can take on h5 in that case, though. Yeah, he actually could. Take on h5, rook g7, king h8, knight f7, mate. So maybe not take on d1, because I don't want to let this bishop come back and hit this knight. But in that case, rook takes a7, bishop f5 check, king g2. If I play rook d4, he could take, and then play bishop d1. I do have a tempo head start there. So let's check first. I think I want to play that move no matter what. And where to step with his king? G2 or H2? Goes to G2. I need this knight here to guard G7 for sure. Try to bring this into the game. Just get a little closer. Maybe free up f8 for my king in the future. Sort of a weird position. I'm not entirely sure what to do. How to unravel this. But if I get this knight on f6, then h5 is reinforced. If in the event he takes it with his bishop, I can take it with my knight and guard g7. So that's one benefit of getting this knight out. And he just says, okay, I'm going to go after your c-pawn, which is understandable. All right, I'm going to activate this. I'm going to go after his king now, I think. Ideas like bishop e4 or knight g4. But losing the c-pawn is, a little worrying material-wise. He has 3 pawns for the piece then. I really want this knight gone. Maybe I should have dealt with it earlier in the game, so I'm going to try to do it now. It's just becoming so much of a bother. Okay, now hopefully I can attack his king. Rook d2 looks like a big threat. He still has this h-pawn, but yeah, if I get rook d2 in, so he sidesteps that, all right. I'm going to go here. I don't want my king getting stuck on the back rank. I'll keep this in reserve. Keep that for later. So maybe now. Go after the b-pawn. Oh, there's only a 2-second increment. I don't know why I was thinking there was more of an increment. So I want to take this next. Maybe rook e2, look for e5, or reroute my knight even. Go here. I'm going to try to bring my rook here. Stop the pawn. Pieces are a ways away, though, from the queen side. Got to try to coordinate. Now probably king b2, yeah. I want to get my bishop here next. And maybe move this e-pawn now that the rook's protecting it. These are tough spots when you know that the situation has got out of hand. Just gotta try your best to focus and not panic. He's gonna be in time pressure soon as well. Let's get the bishop there first and foremost. This e-pawn will be dangerous. Maybe he can play rook d5 here. That would be interesting. Yeah, rook d5 actually is working, I think. Okay, let's give it check first. Wow. Just king a3 probably. Yikes. That's all I could do. He played king there? Wow. Didn't even queen. That's impressive. All right, well, I think I'm just losing now, but I'll try my best. Swindling chances, maybe? Probably just push the pawn. I'm trying to stop it with my rook, but not looking good. This is not even a threat yet, actually, because with his queen there, he would have had queen c5. Trying for d2 next. Or e3, rather, not d2. Am I going to swindle something here? Maybe. Bishop c4, but I have check. Ooh. But even then, he can move his king. Queen? Check? What's going on here? Whoa, I might be winning. Maybe. What in the world? Check. Yeah, and then take next move on b3. Or mate. Whoa, what a bizarre ending right there. Went from getting outplayed to swindling him. Outplayed in the endgame, that is. That was very lucky. Very, very lucky. Well, before we click over to the analysis board, let's do what I always do with these standard games, these rapid games, which is try to talk through some of the key moments before adding the engine. Just try to draw some sort of conclusion before I click that thing on. So the opening went very well. And based on his comment, he was talking about deep blue versus Kasparov. I'm almost certain he just mixed up the line. So in this position after knight d7, that deep blue Kasparov game went bishop d3. Or no, sorry, knight g5. And even though white is moving the knight again, unprompted, the idea is there h6... Or wait. Yeah, that's right. There h6 does run into knight e6 because of f takes e6, queen h5 with mate to come, g6, queen takes g6. So yeah, the move is knight g5 right here. If you throw in knight f3 first and then do this, I think it's just not as good for white. And after h6, white should probably go back. So I'll show that again in the analysis board, but I'm pretty sure that's the line that he was confusing this with. Knight g5, knight gf6, then bishop d3, e6, knight f3, h6, and knight takes e6 at that point. Very famous game, famous sacrifice. Because as played, he only got one pawn, and my king wasn't inconvenienced enough to fully justify the piece sacrifice, I think. So this all felt fine. And here I really thought he should move his bishop and play for c4 right away. He played rook e1, but I think that just helps me, including rook e1, rook e8. Allows my king to get back sooner. So knight f8, also fine, I think. And I was starting to feel real confident, like right around here. But the position proved annoying enough that I wasn't able to simplify and just trade down without worry. I mean, I was also very confident right here when he just started throwing his kingside pawns up the board because this shouldn't work. But I wasn't able to find a proper way to punish it. And in hindsight, I think I should have just challenged this knight. I remember here I was debating between the move I played, rook a d8, and some knight move to d7, and I sort of was wishy-washy about it. I said, well, white always has this bishop a4 move, maybe I shouldn't do it. But looking at it again, bishop a4 seems only like a minor concern, and I think I should try to get rid of this knight. I let that knight survive way too long. Here, maybe take with the pawn even. Keep the queens on board. I was just playing straightforward chess, trading down. And this was very annoying. The fact that after g takes h6, I can't really take back with the pawn. Because if I take with the pawn, he checks on g1. And if my king goes to h7, he has bishop c2, king h8, and knight f7 mate. And that line will transpose if I play king h8 first instead of king h7. So takes, rook g1, king h8, knight f7. That's even a fork, so for sure I won't do that. And even here, I wanted to trade this knight, play knight g6. But after take and take, this rook is coming to g1, and I've got problems on g6/g7. Maybe there's something there I'm not seeing, and I'm actually okay, but maybe I can play my bishop to e4. I think that's the detail I missed. So if knight here, take, rook g1, yeah, I can play bishop e4 right in that position. That's very important. Although even there he has h5. Yeah, forgot about that h-pawn. He can still use that. And he's going to get at g7. And that's also not clear. If he gets to play rook takes g7 and then goes and wins a7, that's sort of like what happened in the game. So I think already at this point, I've somehow messed it up. Even though it feels winning. It feels like I should just be easily converting this with my extra piece. But if g takes h6 is impossible, the position's getting messy. So I'm especially going to focus on, I think, right around here, like this phase of the game, maybe starting with takes. A lot of these moves look natural to me, but it's possible some of them are mistakes. And I really spent a lot of time right here on knight h5. I think I was already slightly uncomfortable at this point. And then later, yeah, I underestimated rook f1. Rook f1 was a really nice resource. King h7, therefore, is probably a mistake. Maybe I should play this right away. Although then I lose g6. I don't know. Because now his rook was getting into f7. There wasn't anything I could do about it. If I play rook e7, I lose this rook here. And if I take on d1, he can take with a bishop. And again, I can't play rook e7 because that knight will hang. So I tried to stabilize the position, get my bishop on a stable square. Meanwhile, he went and picked up a pawn, activate this knight. But now he has 3 pawns for the piece, and he outplayed me in this phase of the game. I thought picking up the b2 pawn might help, but wow, that a pawn was fast. I tried to stop it this way, but he comes back with his king. You can see my pieces are so far afield. And here, right after I played e5, I saw rook d5, but I was in such bad time pressure, I almost couldn't find any other better move. Yeah, I think I'm in big trouble at this point. And if I can't get going with my one asset here, this e-pawn, then, oof. I don't know. So e5, he plays this brilliant interference move, rook d5. I give a check, mainly just to play a move. I was virtually out of time here. Take. Yeah, and here, I think he should just queen, because if I try to attack his pinned bishop, which is maybe what he was worried about, he has queen h8 mate. So on queen, I'd have to start moving my king up the board, and clearly that shouldn't work. But, I mean, it's a minor thing. I think he's winning regardless. I can't stop his pawn here, right? Ah, I could have. Oh, I totally missed this. I had rook takes b3 in this position. King takes, bishop takes d5, and then I'm covering this square. Yeah. We both missed a lot of stuff down the stretch. a8 queen takes, check. Yeah, and again, white's totally winning. I think if I were white, I would just start pushing this pawn now. He played some queen moves. He did win my g-pawn, but probably the more important thing, I don't care at all about my g-pawn. I'm just trying to get my e-pawn down the board. That's the most important thing. Yeah, and this is still totally winning. But once this happened, now the result was in doubt. So probably, yeah, probably like right around here he started messing up. I don't know about takes. Well, okay, takes is probably fine because I can't move here due to takes. So probably right here. He just needs something a little bit better. Or he maybe should just give up the bishop for the pawn, play bishop c4 right away. That should be sufficient too. But this happened, and fortunately I had this check on b2. Without the check on b2, I'd be busted, I think. Yeah, and then he goes there. I wonder if he plays just king c5, and I take, and then he queens. Yeah, that's much better. Because I can't ever queen due to this pin. Yeah, he should play king c5 in this position. But then this happened, and I think I'm winning all of a sudden. Even though his d-pawn's on the verge of promotion, his king is now completely open here. And my plan, if he plays king b4, was to play rook takes b3, king takes b3, queen b1 check, pick up his queen, and simultaneously guard the d8 square. Game over. So that was a regular old Scandi swindle. Maybe an exceptional Scandi swindle. But I will take it. Kind of mad at myself for letting it get to that point, and also missing rook takes b3 when he played king b4. I mean, it's hard to be too upset about myself for missing rook takes b3 because I had almost no time at this point. So always have to remember time is a big factor in these games. faster the time control, the bigger factor it is. So just getting to that point is, a concern in itself. Mistakes and time pressure are going to happen. That's just the way it goes. But really, I should have played better in the conversion phase when I was trying to convert this position. And I felt stuck in between trading down or playing for an attack. Maybe trying to use this diagonal against this king, and didn't turn out well, despite playing normal-looking moves. Okay, let's click over to the analysis board, see what fun things people are saying in the chat about how lucky I'm getting. Well, I'm not going to look at it right now, but wow, this was a wildly inaccurate game. So you guys can't see the stats down here, but my opponent had 4 inaccuracies, 2 mistakes, 4 blunders for a 108 average centi-pawn loss. I had 5 inaccuracies, 4 mistakes, 3 blunders for a 94 average centi-pawn loss. Now, when you have a time scramble like that, with just back and forth blunders at the end, the evaluation does tend to get skewed in terms of the inaccuracies, mistakes, and blunders, but still not a good game on our parts. Okay, so in the opening, knight d7 here. So the main line is knight g5. And this is a much better version of what white was trying to get in the game. Again, h6 is met by knight e6, hitting the queen. And if takes, there's mate and 2 coming up. So knight g5, usually black goes here. And then bishop d3. This renews the threat because even though black is covering the h5 square, if h6 here, then knight e6 still works. Take bishop g6 mate this time. Or if you want to be fancy, you could even give up your queen first. Do this and then checkmate. So knight gf6 would be, well, black would play e6 at this point, and then knight f3, and now e6 is finally playable, as happened in that deep blue Kasparov game from, I believe, 1996 or 1997. And now white can sack on e6. Take, and if takes, there's bishop g6 check, king e7. Black's king is in a much worse position compared to our game. And I want to say the deep blue game went queen e7. Kasparov played. Deep blue castled. Takes with the pawn, since take with the queen runs into rook e1. Winning material. So takes with the pawn. Bishop g6 check here. And then I believe like bishop f4. And Kasparov intentionally played for this position against deep blue because of the way that the computer evaluates these sacrifices. I forgot if Kasparov thought the computer wouldn't go in for this because he thought deep blue would be materialistic, or just didn't have faith in deep blue's ability to execute the attack from here and prove compensation. One of those two, but it infamously backfired and Kasparov lost a game in like 17 moves or something. I'll link that down below if you haven't already searched it. So that's what white was looking for, but he did it this way. Yeah, knight eg5, the computer says that that's a mistake. h6, yeah, take, and black is already +1, according to the engine. And I'm not going to dwell on these moves, because these all look fine. The computer also says that black's just better the whole way. c5's good, so I'm -2 at this point, or +2, however you want to look at it. This is fine. Okay, so this is the starting point for where I was starting to maybe question my play. C takes is fine. Bishop c5, not the best move, but still a large advantage. The engine says I should play rook d8 first. But okay, I'll give myself that one. It looks normal. b6, g4. The engine says this is bad, but I like the way white played it in hindsight, because if white just plays normally here and just swaps down pieces, then they're going to be down 2 points of material. The position will remain relatively unchanged. Like there won't be so many dynamics, so much dynamic potential for white. So white has to do something to rock the boat. And even though g4 is deserving of a question mark according to Stockfish, white has to try something. This would be like a trend-breaking move. You see that the trend, this is what Grandmaster Yermolinsky describes it as in his book, Road to Chess Improvement. You see the trend is going negatively for you, so you have to do something to try to reverse the trend, and often that requires a move to rock the boat, something that maybe even is pretty suspicious and may cause you to lose faster. But the upside is you can muddy the waters and perhaps claw your way back in the game. So bishop b7, h4. So now I'm +4. Yeah, and rook d8 is a mistake. Yeah. Rook d8 is a mistake, despite looking completely normal. And best is knight 8 d7, as I was starting to realize when I was analyzing it. Just try to get rid of this knight. That helps so much. g4 becomes weaker. Queen c6 will be in the air if the knights get swapped off. Let's just follow the engine line. Bishop a4, take. Queen takes. Bishop d6, okay. Back, rook e7. Yeah, and even just optically, there's an enormous difference between white having the knight on e5 and not having the knight on e5. I have more influence on this diagonal. The attack looks less scary on the king side. Yeah, that's just much, much better. So rook a d8, takes, queen takes, take, take. Even here, I'm still -2. +2. Okay, knight h5 is all right. King here, takes, g takes. And here, the engine says the best move is rook takes d1. Let's follow that line, because I'm a little curious about that. Rook takes d1, bishop takes, knight 8 g6, bishop c2. Ah, is it because if this knight d3 is good, instead of taking the knight? That's probably the case. I'll just flick on the local engine. So I was worried about this stuff. That's what I was concerned about with pressure here. So it looks like I had a right to be concerned about that. Ideas like king h7, bishop c2. But that's a nice reversal. Knight d3. Not going back to win the knight on g6, just playing for the fork. Yeah, king moves somewhere, takes. And I'm just going to be up in exchange. Also, I'll win the h6 pawn back. That should be a straightforward win for black. So instead, g6. And now the advantage is dropping. King g3. By the way, I have the best move arrow off. I should reactivate that. This one. So king g3 is good. Force my knight to this square. King h3. Yeah, and this doesn't feel comfortable anymore. I think the damage has been done at this point. Even though the eval objectively is still great for me, the position is messy enough where with my time situation, it's not a guarantee I'm going to find the best lines here. Not at all. King h7. I thought rook f1 was good. The engine says bishop c2 is even better. Check. Gets all this activity. Take. Check. Better to play the knight here right away. Okay. So maybe I could keep my bishop on e4 for the time being. Knight g4. Still better. But now it's a free-for-all. I think at this point any result is possible. I would not be surprised by a win, loss, or a draw for me. And he correctly gave up his b-pawn. Interesting. And correctly brought the king over. a4. a5. King c3. So now he's playing all the best moves. I'm still better, but the advantage is dropping with every single decision, practically. Yeah, a6. Bishop here. a7. And now I think my next move gives it away. The computer says I should just wait. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't give it away. e5, rook d5. Ah, okay, so take with the bishop, and then can I check on d3 and play rook a1? I didn't see that. Let's just see that line. Check. King a2, knight b4. Yeah, and the game, according to the computer, should end in a draw because white wants to keep control of a1. And I can't do much about a8 queen, so I have to keep checking. Yeah, did not see that line. So I played rook e2, and that's the losing move. That should be done. King a3. I just took here because I didn't see anything else. Knight g2 is the best move, apparently. That's pretty bad. Take. And now king b4 was a massive mistake by him. He should just queen and not worry about the pin on the bishop. And here I miss this. Takes, takes. And then I win because the bishop will stop the pawn. I can go up, win this pawn, and my g-pawn will carry the day. Or my e-pawn. So I instead played king h5. Yeah, and now some confused moves and mutual time pressure. Still all winning for white. d7, bad move though. Better to play king c3. And as I was alluding to, I really thought that white made a mistake by going after the g-pawn. I think that was a waste of time. White could have maybe been on the verge of promotion if they hadn't done that. So d7. Yeah, and now I'm not doing so bad. Except I shouldn't go to f1, huh? Oh yeah, that's right. In view of that line I was talking about, king f1, bishop c4, rook b2, and then king c5 is still winning, it appears, for him. So I should instead go to g2. Instinctively, in time pressure, you're always going to want to keep your king close to the pawn like that, but I could totally see how king g2 is better than king f1 in light of that pin. Yeah, so if he had played king c5, that's game over. Take, take, and even though it's temporary material equality, he can sack his bishop for my pawn, but I can't do the same for his pawn. It's just going to promote. And king and bishop versus king and queen is a win for the queen, of course. When he went there, I queen with check, and now I win. Yeah, and just to show that line, if he had played king back to b4, I was planning rook takes b3, king takes b3, queen b1 check, and then take, and I'm guarding this square. So, crazy, crazy game. And I think this highlights one thing I have to work on. Sometimes I play too natural of moves in sharp positions. And I think you can consider this position a sharp position, especially in light of what white's doing on the king side. So rook a d8 was too routine. And it didn't address the core issue for me here, which is white's knight on e5. I think I was getting lulled by a false sense of security. What I was talking about earlier in the game, where I wasn't concerned about that knight coming to e5, I just tucked my king away, but I think I got complacent and allowed that knight to stay there for too long. Yeah, and now here I need to find a precise continuation, which wasn't easy to do. So take, and even looking at it again, like it's still not 100% clear to me. Take. Yeah, I had to play rook e7 here. That just looks weird. That looks kind of strange, ignoring the h-pawn. So again, if here there's check, and I have to give up my knight. So I'm going to be pretty hard on myself and say rook a d8 was just a bad move. Even though it's still minus 2.5. I don't like what happened after this. And I should have played a knight to d7 and traded his knight on e5. Okay, very interesting fighting game, though. Back and forth. You guys got to witness a Scandi swindle once again. I know some of you guys like that. And thanks for the game, MrFrankCastle. Hopefully he sees this. And hopefully he gets to some FIDE tournaments, because like he said in the chat, he's looking to become a master at some point. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Have a good weekend, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Bye, guys.